let's see here. We are now unmuted. I'm going to fade back in. Here we are. I'm here with, I actually don't really know your name. Chris? Are you Chris?
Yeah, Chris Legge.
Cool. I'm here with Chris. They're the creator of Lethe?
Lethe.
Lethe, that's the one. I knew it was one of those three, and I took a shot and only did two of them.
Yeah, it looks like you would want to pronounce it. It doesn't look like you'd pronounce it the way it is.
So give me the elevator pitch.
Well, okay. So Lethe is a mostly traditional style RPG. You have stats, skills, abilities, but the catch is all of the players. The only thing they start knowing is their memories. They don't know any of their.
So it's designed for the amnesia campaign.
You could use it that way, yeah. I heard somebody refer to it like playing, if anybody plays Baldur's Gate, like playing a Dark Urge playthrough.
Okay.
If you want to play, like, you could build it that way. You could build it in that sort of thing. But the big thing is the GM is one that makes all the characters. There's a questionnaire that they give out to their players that you can customize and to kind of get the vibe of the character that they want to play. And then you get to create.
You go off and do all the hard work.
Yeah, basically. It's really GM heavy. So
is that usually your style of how you run games?
Surprisingly, no. When I usually run games, I'm very much a sandbox. Sandbox isn't even the right term. I like to refer to it as like a machine. Everything's running, and then people will ask me something, and then I'll add a new piece to the machine, and that just kind of runs in the background while there's stuff that's going on, and then they can just do whatever. But this, I started off because I wanted a way. I mean, and I know this is something that comes up with a lot of tables and a lot of players. There's something about the idea of doing a campaign like this. Like everybody I've talked to is like, oh, I had this idea for running like a D&D campaign for this, or oh, I had this idea, or a couple people have been like, I had this and I couldn't quite get it to work the way I initially thought, but that ended up morphing into this game, and
right.
But yeah, like the GM will create the characters to an extent. They'll pick the stat line, they'll pick the skills and the abilities, and they'll create the memories. There'll be a set of memories for each player, and as they're playing through, recovering a memory would be like leveling up in another system. Gives you a bunch of choices. You have the option of, if you are playing, if you like the memory, like if this would not be in a kind of Dark Urge playthrough, if it feels fitting for your character and it's the kind of thing you want in your past, you can accept it, and then you get some bonuses. If you choose to reject it, though, you still keep the memory. It's not like you're rewriting the fact that this happened for the character, but you are then able to rework some of your stats. So if it's something where, like, you are playing more of an aggressive person, but that's not who you used to be, you could reject that, or vice versa. If it used to be you were not what you would consider a good person, but you want to be good.
So the tension between kind of how the GM designed the character, and then now that I have it and these numbers are in front of me, I get to decide how that actually shapes my future.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
So yeah, the idea is kind of to play off of the concept that we constantly get to choose who we are. We are constantly making those decisions. You aren't beholden unto things you've done in the past.
Right.
And so for it, I went and worked on putting together a setting that is kind of like, since Lethe, the reason for the name is it's the river in the Greek underworld that
Right.
when you, depending on the telling, if you cross it or if you drink from it, you lose your memories. There's a second river that is meant to restore your memories. It's all related to like preparing yourself for reincarnation and a lot of stories. But so I created kind of this underworld. Could be anything. So it's meant to be kind of weird. Weird and unsettling, and you're not quite sure what things are, and that as you go through and you complete these different challenges that are placed in front of you in your group, some of them will relate to your memories. One of the examples I use is if a memory is tied to a specific morning and waking up. An alarm clock, so you have this like dark tunnel that's like a maze that you're working your way through with this like pulsing light. And this all ends up to a point where everything just kind of the light comes in at the end and the tunnel is gone and you're outside, and just, not like everything collapses, but just as the light comes up, everything is just normal. And when you get to that point, that particular player would receive the recovered memory of that. They write that down on their character sheet. It's also got some options for, like, if you want to play a longer thing, you would want to be revealing like somebody's memory periodically, not like everybody all at once.
Right.
You don't want, like, if you've got 4 players, you don't want, and it's not like a one shot, you don't want something where, hey, every session you're revealing like 2-3 memories a person. Which,
yeah, you want to draw that out more.
Draw it out a little, yeah. But you can, which is why I also included stuff for the river Nimozine, which is the other river, where if you come across it, it's a way to just, okay, this is like preparing for the end. You've gotten some of the catharsis and some of the growth from the other memories, and then you can just restore the rest for everybody all at once.
So how long did this take you to sort of manifest?
This depends. So physically writing,
that's usually the answer.
Kind of weird process. I have kind of a weird process. I had a lot of our teachers in school that had to kind of explain to new teachers for me, like, okay, now look, you just got to let him do his thing. He's gonna like sit and stare at a wall for 15 minutes.
I got in an argument with an English teacher in college where they were trying to, they wanted me to write just the first paragraph of the essay and crank on that. And I was like, that's not how I work. I do a whole thing. They were like, well, no, you have to. I'm teaching you this process. And I was like, listen, I write a certain way because I'm stupid. I'm just gonna write the whole thing all at once because I have ADHD and I have a problem. And here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna turn that into you, and if it passes, I don't have to do the rest of this. And they were like, all right, okay. And I wrote the whole essay, and I handed it to them, and they were like, okay, this is like a 91, so.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I told you. I'm gonna do it all in one ADHD blast, and there are a couple things that I can fix up, and I'll do those, and that's it.
Yeah. See, my ADHD does kind of the opposite. I will sit and just it'll just stew in the back of my mind. So I'd be like,
it's that too.
I had a teacher that was one of my favorite art teachers in school. I got an art degree, and she eventually learned very early on from me taking classes from her. She'd be like, okay, so we're working on new projects and everything. Everybody get out like their sketchbooks, start working on mock-ups and stuff. And I'd be sitting in the corner of the room just kind of staring, like into a
And
corner.
it's like,
And
why are you
occasionally,
being
like,
lazy and not doing your work? And it's like, no, the work is all up here.
the work is all up here. And I'd be making like a 3-word note every like 5 minutes, and I'd kind of go, okay, and I'd sketch like 3 lines, and then I'd come back, and then she realized, just let him do what he's going to do, and then like, a day later it'll be great. It's fine. Just let him do it. And that's kind of how this worked. I've had an idea, like I said, this is an idea that I know a lot of people. It's just something that comes up a lot.
Up a lot. I'm always seeing it on Reddit from people who either they've never run a game before, or they've only played in a couple games or something like that, and they think this is a grand revolutionary new idea, and they always want to do it in D&D or 5e or whatever they're running, and the overwhelming answer is, don't do that. It's not going to work the way you think it is, because the game isn't built for that. This is. So if you make something bespoke for that purpose, then you can tailor the experience to that, and then you're business.
And the way that the way I approached it, I knew I wanted to do something for Zine Month this year. I had a good time last year, and I was like, okay, I want to do something, and I had some ideas, but none of them were really gelling for me, and this had been sitting in the back of my brain for a while. Like, because I had thoughts of like, do I want to run this as a campaign? No, because I don't like any of I'd have to modify a system so much at that point, and it just kept going back and forth, and things just kind of started to click back in like October, and then I started writing in November because it started to like coalesce, and then because I tend to do the other thing like you did. Some of my games feel like I wrote them in a fever dream. I'll write in like a day or two, but it's just a lot of typing during that time, and the rest of the time I'm just staring at a blank screen.
Yeah, the baseline first draft for a lot of my games are usually written all at once after I've thought about it for a little bit.
Yeah, I've got so many notes that are just like 5 words.
I've had an idea for a dating simulation solo journaling game for like 2 years, and 2 weeks ago I wrote the first draft document, and it's the whole game.
Yep.
It's like I'm like, okay, I gotta name, and I gotta name all the girls. I gotta give them stats. I gotta do all that stuff. But the core mechanics and loop is right there.
Yeah, and
which is the hardest part to do.
It is, and then the second hardest part for me is always like if there are like named stats and things like that, which
is the right name.
Which is the right name, and like, okay, do I want like trying to balance? Like fine tuning is one of the harder things for me.
Numbers too.
Yeah.
Because you get a lot, you can get so deep into the weeds with like probability and stuff like that. And my experience is usually, if it feels right, it is right.
Yeah, that's been
because
my
players
experience.
Will overlook something if the numbers are a little janky, as long as they're all having fun and engaging. What's the word I want? On the level.
They're engaging at where they're meeting the game where it is, in good faith. And that's the probabilities and like figuring out like, okay, how often is this going to trigger with the dice, and running all the numbers and everything in advance always feels real like nerve-wracking, because it feels like you're doing it wrong, and then you actually start rolling the dice and running it. It's like, oh, this actually works. First game I ever wrote, I didn't even play test before I put it out because it was for a game jam, and I'd never played it for a long time, and then I ended up finding out, somebody told me that, oh hey, I'm doing a live stream of it, and I got to watch it played on stream before I had actually ever played it, and I'm like, oh my god, it works.
Nerve-wracking.
Oh my god.
I really try to make sure stuff hits my table before I try it out, unless I'm basing it mostly off an existing system. Like I got a regular out now, but it's a fist hack, so it's like I know it works mechanically.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of which one of the 100 powers that we wrote are broken. I don't know.
Yeah, the first one was just, it's a 1 page and it was free, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm
you
gonna
don't have to test that. It's fine.
Yeah, and it was, pretty simple mechanics, but I'm like, oh my god, it works the way I want it to.
Although
Watching this stream,
I try to test the 1-pagers. I played the shit out of Torches and Rations before that came out.
yeah, I do now. I don't like the nebulousness of that. I don't want to.
You don't want to set up a whole thing and charge people like a bunch of money and then be like, by the way, I didn't try this out.
No. But yeah.
Do you do all the layout yourself for this?
Yes, yeah, I do all the layout. Like I said, I got an art degree, so photography and graphic design were my things. So, but I hated working in a graphic design related field, so I got out of that. But yeah, and the art, I think all the art that's on here is stuff that I've done. But my partner's also contributing art to it, because they're more of an illustrator, and like they're way better at drawing than I am. I did enough drawing to get through that part of school, and
fill the holes in your game, you know.
Yeah.
Did I not put this link in the chat? I'm horrible.
And I was just looking, starting to pick up. We are getting close to actually funding.
You have 23 days left. I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Yeah, no. I really want to hit some of the stretch goals, though. I like
let's talk about that. I just saw those.
The conversations I've had with some of those creators, because I put out a call for people like, hey, I'm looking. I don't. Basically, I realized my last game was real personal. It was a real niche game. It was not something that could really have a whole lot of stretch goals in it that I could really have anybody else working on. But this one I was like, other settings and like some pre-written adventure stuff would be cool for this. And so I put out a call to some people, and I really liked the responses I got on the people that are involved right now. We're starting off with everybody doing a setting. And then if we can get past that, potentially doing adventures for those settings. So like a pre-written thing.
That's really cool to me, because to me the setting of this is more important than an adventure, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Because
it's going to change the whole vibe.
Plus, if you have 2 or 3 different examples, then it will be a lot easier for a GM to look at them and cross-reference the similar elements between them and be like, okay, the things that this game, my setting needs to, because the game supports it, is here, here, and here.
Yeah, and that's also, I wanted to have, because it's so GM heavy, I have a lot of stuff in there for like, here's how you create this. The GM section is huge in this book compared to the player section.
That's great.
Yeah. But I wanted to put in a pre-written adventure so that there is something where it's like, okay, here's how you build these scenes. Here's how what a pre-generated character looks like. Here's this, this, and this. And then being able to go into these other settings. Like I said, I really like what they've come up with. Logan blew me away with what he suggested. Because I love what Logan makes. We seem to think very similarly about a lot of games, and just coming in with like, okay, so what if it's like a coming of age ceremony? And it's like, it's not necessarily like, oh, we're going into this fantastical thing or anything. It's like, no, it's just like a village, and this is part of the ceremony. And I'm like, I love that. That fits with the mythology. Just like, please. And then was a little nervous at the beginning because got 2 pitches for Cyberpunk, but they are so wildly different that I thought, no, these both deserve to be here.
Yeah.
Because Lola's was more of a traditional cyberpunk sci-fi type of thing, restoring memory chips that are fragments of your memory.
The other one kind of looks like it's the Matrix.
Yeah, that was one of the things Armando brought up specifically, was like a dystopian, post-apocalyptic Matrix thing.
Yeah.
And then the first thing I thought of for a different setting is actually what Brent pitched, which he's still working on the full pitch for me to be able to include it, but since he's later, we'll add it in. But his is more like a fae type of setting. I tend to lean heavily into folklore and stuff. I'm very into folklore and mythology, so that really hit home for me too, because that was one of the first things I thought of was, losing your memory, and would work perfectly for getting stuck in a fae realm.
Oh, absolutely.
It's kind of an inverse of the usual, you lost your name. Your name's the only thing you have. You just lost everything else.
Sorry.
And then we're gonna work from there. I've got a few people that have kind of been toying with how to seem very interested in trying to figure out how to make this solo as well, which I got to talk to one of the creators that was pitching that, because that may be something we include later in a stretch goal too.
Yeah,
if
I
we
gotta
get that
find
high.
a go-to solo guy to partner with me on some of this stuff, because there is so much solo and journaling content, and it's not something that is really my bag. So I barely know how to cover any of this stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't into solo games until partway through I started making games, and then I did one, and I realized, this is the easiest thing to play test.
Because you can play it yourself.
Yeah, and you don't have to, if you hand it off to someone to play test, they can just run it. They don't have to get a group together. That sort of thing. The people that I've gotten to play test Lethe, they, some of them have been like, hey, January happened, like we were saying earlier, January's been rough for everybody. January happened, I haven't been able to get my game group together. And I'm like, no worries. It's just, get back to me when you can. Just want some more feedback, that sort of thing. But it just, it takes a while sometimes to get that going. With a solo game, you can just, grab some paper and go.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm going to see if we might include something like that in there. And what this is basically also going to be, because I don't want to get into the realm of I'm publishing a book this thick for Zine Month, because that feels bad. This is all going to be in a separate book.
Okay.
All the stretch goals are going to end up being in a separate book if we get to a physical. If we get to the tier where we're bringing in Logan's setting, then it's going to start transitioning into a physical separate thing that goes out to everybody that ordered the game.
That can get real expensive fast.
Oh, I know. I've been accounting for all that.
Okay. Well, good.
Yeah.
Because I got so screwed over, because originally I funded this, and then the stretch goal was like, yeah, I'll do a whole setting book. I didn't realize the setting book was going to be bigger than the original.
Yep.
And I basically had to do a whole separate crowdfunding for that.
Oh.
It was rough.
Yeah, we ended up. I ended up discussing with all the people that have kind of agreed to do the stretch goals. I was like, okay, it's this is the word count range I'm figuring for all of these, because this is somewhere in the neighborhood of what I've put together. But I'm given extra wiggle room, and you don't have to go that far if you don't want to be that verbose. So, and then accounting for okay, that makes this many pages, this and this, gone in, checked out the pricing.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
For my next thing,
this will work.
a bunch of my stretch goals are like, each one is just an additional 4 pages, and so every stretch goal I have listed on my thing, I'm like, okay, I have my spreadsheet has to account for all of the stuff plus the art and writer budget and the bump in what the manufacturing is going to be.
Yep. And you know, once you start getting up, you know, it does cost more, but then the actual amount the curve starts to go down a little.
It sort of
like you start to get cheaper. So, yeah. But yeah, that's
All right, well, this looks really awesome. I am definitely gonna put in for it.
Thank you.
For sure. Like I said, you're at $707 at $800. I don't think you're gonna have any problem getting that in the next 23 days. But I definitely want to see some of these stretch goals. I want to see that matrix setting.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you're gonna get about double what you got now in 23 days. That's easy. I don't see.
Yeah, I'm hoping, and I'm really bad at promotion. You know, the imposter syndrome kicks in real hard when you're doing stuff like this. Sometimes
blast it the hell out to any channel that I have and hope that I'm not annoying people. And if I am annoying anyone, they don't need to be buying stuff from me.
Yeah, I need to get better at that. But yeah,
I was in like an industrial thrash metal band for like a decade.
Oh.
So there's this like streak of like the promo used to be buy my music or die. like that, like I was just like really just like, so there's that streak in me.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten a lot better, partially because my day job is I'm an IT guy, and I'm like usually customer facing. Most of my career, I've been like the guy that's like goes to the offices to work on stuff. So you have to be good at like just
and talking to
personable,
people.
And you just gotta cut off that section.
Dreadful. Get rid of that.
Yeah.
Burn.
I don't have
the best thing that COVID ever brought was that my store closes from 11 to 6 a.m. now. I'm done. I can be here all night and not have to talk to customers.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, so let's wrap this up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna actually, speaking of work, I'm gonna have to get going to there before long. So.
All right, good. So we'll check in. I'll check in on this next week. See if it's funded. I'm sure it will be, but we'll see where the stretch goals are, and I'll blomp. I'll like blast that out everywhere again.
Appreciate that.
Cool. All right, then I will see you later.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Anytime. And let me know next time you have something, and we'll
yeah. I mean, I've got what I like to call my soup can list.
Yeah, I got
of
like
just all. Yeah.
Like 8 going concerns.
Yeah. As soon as I start to work on something, my brain goes, "But what about this idea?"
That's how you do it. Really wants me to work on that. Keep all the things moving around while the hamster keeps running.
Exactly.
And sooner or later, one of those things becomes done, and then you put it out, and you take it off, and then you just put something else on there.
Yeah. First game I ever started writing, still have never released.
First
that
game
one I don't know if
I've ever done. I'm on my 3rd or 4th supplement for. Actually, that's not true. The first game I ever started writing died on a laptop in 2001, so.
Ooh.
I was 11. I'm sure it was bad. But I wish I still had those files.
You think that until you go back and look at it. And then it's like, well, no, actually, there's some good stuff here.
I bet there wasn't. Yeah. All right. Stay gold, dude.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Okie dokie. Let's go back to the Studio mode. So